Hey, Chris Liepe here with the Recording Revolution with why your vocals don't cut or sit in the mix the way you want them to. Perhaps you can relate to the following scenario. You get things dialed in, maybe you're the vocalist, maybe you're producing a vocalist. You get your signal chain dialed in, you have them run through the take or the track a couple times, and everything seems to be fine during the verse or during the less challenging parts of the song. And then as soon as that chorus comes or as soon as that lift happens with the voice, it appears that something's not working right with the gear or with the mic or with the compression ratio that you have dialed in. Well, and the vocalist is singing on pitch and their intensity seems to be there. They're displaying a good amount of dynamics, or you're displaying a good amount of dynamics, but something isn't working. Well, better reach for the EQ or the compressor and tweak that a little bit more, or maybe the effects aren't right for the chorus. Maybe those ways of working or addressing the things that you're hearing when the vocalist changes things up need to be done. But there are huge vocal performance and production opportunities that have nothing to do with your recording setup, and they have everything to do with the way we can manipulate, control, and project vocally.
In this light, I can't hide my face, so I will run away from this place. It's like a race with the light of day, making way through the lasting night.
If you'd like to go deeper with the sound of your vocals in general, click the link below and download my free PDF, Perfect Vocal Chain, and I'll help you dial in things on a whole other level. And quickly, before we get into these magical tweaks we can make with our own voices, I want to address one of the most commonly fought with things about digital recording that can really kill a great vocal performance, or the potential for a great vocal performance, and that is latency. Latency is one of those things that we often don't consider right away until it's really bugging us. First of all, different softwares puts this in different places. But if we go and we look at our hardware and we look for something called the hardware buffer size, when I'm recording vocals, because as you know, if you've been watching the other videos that I've been doing for the channel lately, I like to record with effects. If I am recording at 120 samples, maybe 256, that is a reasonable amount of latency for vocal performance, and it doesn't cause issues for me and for a lot of people. Anything above 256, and you start getting that uncomfortable latency side effect. This is the first place to check. There are a lot of sneaky plugins out there that introduce latency. One of them that bit me for quite a while was the adaptive limiter that Logic uses. I use the L2 on my master bus when I'm tracking because it's very, very low latency. But that adaptive limiter, also multiband compressors, adaptive EQs, some of them out there have latency, and they should not be tracked with. Use them all you want in your mix, and raise that hardware buffer up so that you can work with more plugins and do more things when you're mixing. But for tracking, if you have to, submix things, bounce in place some tracks so that your computer hardware can give you the non-latency that you want and allow you to use the immersive types of vocal effects and processing while tracking so that you can really get into what you're doing. Okay, let's talk about what we can do with our own voices to bring out the very best in our vocal recordings. I'm going to sing a note. Oh! Notice what happens when I manipulate a few things about my face. Oh! Notice how much more presence was brought out with just that one note? I got my face out of the way. I bared my teeth a little bit, and the side effect was that I raised the 2 to 4K on the EQ spectrum. If you're coaching a vocalist and you're having trouble getting a certain line to cut through the mix, don't reach for that EQ right away. Ask them, or maybe it's you. Ask yourself, are you enabling presence with your vocal performance? The other thing that we can do is we have the ability to tonally control by raising or lowering our larynx. That combined with baring teeth or bringing the resonance backward or forward, we have the ability to project in different ways to get certain sounds. Can bring that up a little bit. Hey! That's how dark that sounds. Hey! But how about this? Hey! Hey! Now, there's a lot going on there that's subjective, but as I get my face out of the way, as I project that note forward in resonance, the mic, the signal chain takes it. There's a lot going on here that has nothing to do with reaching for a plugin. So I'm going to sing a phrase. The phrase is, "Don't let me down." And we're going to explore the tonal possibilities across this phrase. Don't let me down. Don't let me down. I can brighten some of those words up. Don't let me down. Don't let me down. Don't let me down. If you listen to guys like Freddie Mercury, he's probably one of the best examples. It's not just that he's a great vocalist, it's that he understands this tonal manipulation power. One of the best lines to observe this in Freddie's voice is from Bohemian Rhapsody. Mama! Ooh. That might sound or feel a little over the top when we go about that kind of singing, but that's what he does. Mama is very forward. His face is out of the way. It's bright, high larynx. And then he lowers. Ooh! It's this kind of variety and attentiveness to tonal variation within a performance that helps your vocals cut and sit well in a mix. And it makes for a lot more entertaining and emotional connectivity in your vocal performance as well. So I have a little mini song that I've pulled up where I've done some of this in the performance. Here it is.
Don't you let it take you. You know I won't let it break you. It's time to run away. It's time to run away.
Okay, let's go ahead and solo the lead vocals here. This first phrase.
Don't you let it take you.
Here's what's going on. I am putting a lot more sound through my nose. I'm exploiting the nasal cavity. Don't you let it take you. No, not all the way through anyway. Don't you let it take you. And then I darken up towards the end of that line.
Don't you let it take you.
I'm honking that. Don't you? Then I darken for the end. Yeah! So if I explore that on one note, the different placement, the freedom of resonance, the strategy when it comes to resonance, there's a lot that goes into it, and you can hear it in the mix, how it, as the notes change and the resonance dynamically changes, it creates a lot more interest, and it helps the vocals create space.
Don't you let it take you.
Okay, if we look at the next phrase,
You know I won't let it break you.
listen to no.
You know
No! No! Not no! That would sound a little thinner and one-dimensional.
you know I won't let it break
You know I won't let it break you!
It's time to run away.
There, I've opened it up a little bit. I've dropped my larynx.
It's time to run.
It's time to run, so I come from you!
Yeah.
You! To this.
It's time to run.
It's time to run away! Introduce a little bit more grit. Open throat. So here I'm introducing more compression, not audio compression, vocal compression, where I'm using the area above my larynx to hold back air as I push more. This is creating a natural grit. And I'm using it here and there throughout this phrasing, but I'm using more of it here combined with the more open throat, and I'm taking the resonance out of primarily my nose and placing it back a little bit more. Creates a darker sound.
It's time to run away.
Okay, here again.
It's time to run away.
Listen to run.
It's time to run away.
It's time to run! It's time to run! Letting it open into the nasal cavity again. Let's listen to some of these background vocals as well. Super nasal! Honk, honk, honk! These are not good or pleasing ways of singing when addressed by themselves, but as part of the arrangement and part of what the overall vocal arrangement needs, you have the tools to manipulate the sound, the tone, the intensity using placement with your voice. So when you get blindsided during a recording session where all of a sudden things don't quite add up or don't sound good like they just did in a previous section, ask the questions about vocal placement, resonance, vowel formation, raise or lower that larynx, get your face out of the way, and experiment with these possibilities dynamically over lines. I guarantee you're going to learn to craft melodies and perform melodies in a more dynamic way that is going to help your voice sit in the mix and at the same time break through the mix, be more emotionally engaged, and require less tweaking and fixing in the mix. Thanks again, Graham, for having me on the channel. And again, if you'd like to go deeper with your vocal setup and your vocals in general, click that link below and download my free PDF, Perfect Vocal Chain. We'll see you for more.